Hello, everyone. Today, we will listen to a story about a woman's adultery. Vika lived in this magical city since she was a little girl. She had a good family, both mom and dad, who loved their daughter very much. The girl grew up obedient, kind and polite. She did well at school to please her parents. When Vika was 16, an unpleasant thing happened in her family. Her mother left them preferring some other man. The girl had a hard time with her mother's betrayal. She withdrew into herself and became silent. At that time, she was supported by her father, who was also not happy because he really loved his wife and did not expect her to do this. Seeing how hard it was for his daughter, the man gave her all his fatherly love and attention. And gradually, they came to terms with the fact that now their family consisted of 2 people, not 3. Vika was grateful to her father for his support and tried not to upset him. Soon she became a student at a college where she also devoted all her time to her studies. 3 years later, she was lucky enough to get a job in a travel agency. The salary was good, and the director was calm and balanced. One morning, an unfamiliar guy walked into Vika's office. He looked about 22 years old. The young man's appearance was quite pleasant. He was dressed fashionably, but his eyes were a little sad. He introduced himself as Petrol. The guy came here to cancel a book trip for 2. He was very shy about it, which made Vika very touched. Peter looked at the girl so sad and embarrassed that she asked, "Did something happen to you?" The boy was silent for a minute as if considering whether to talk about it, and then finally decided, "My girlfriend cheated on me with another man yesterday. I came home early and found them in the most interesting place. We had been dreaming about this trip for 3 months, but now number 1 is going anywhere." Vika didn't know what to say. She really wanted to support Petro somehow, but she couldn't find the right words for it. The young woman simply thought that she knew what it was like to be betrayed by a loved one, but she was not going to tell a stranger. Suddenly, unexpectedly, Vika quickly said, "You know what? Let's have coffee together because I didn't have time this morning." Petro agreed. The young men got to talking and realized that they had many common thoughts about life. They felt mutual sympathy and agreed to meet in the evening. A month passed. Vika and Petro met almost every evening. However, there was no love in their relationship yet because the young people did not want to rush things. Still, they both enjoyed these friendly dates. Some time passed and finally Petro realized that he felt something more than just friendship for Vika. One evening, he decided to confess his feelings to the girl. She was sincerely happy about it because she too had fallen in love with this young man. Then they began a romantic relationship. One day, Petro decided to introduce his beloved girl to his friends. He invited everyone to a cafe where he proposed marriage to Vika. His chosen one answered in the affirmative because she had already dreamed of marrying him. All the guests were happy for the happiness of the future young family, especially Petro's close friend, Mikhail. While everyone was rejoicing and having fun, Mikhail kept asking his friend's bride to dance and giving her various pleasant compliments. Vika liked this flattery, but she did not allow herself to take anything too far. She liked Mikhail because he was very eloquent, unlike Petro. The young girl was not very surprised when he asked her to go alone. But Vika refused him, although it cost her some effort because she loved Petro. The lovers got married and started living together in a rented apartment, dreaming of buying their own home as soon as possible. Sometimes, Mikhail would visit them, and Vika could see that he hadn't lost interest in her. She liked to feel like a beautiful woman who was liked by the men around her. Some time passed, and Petro received a long-awaited promotion at work. He was happy to tell his beloved wife about it. Now the young man's salary will be twice as high, which will speed up the purchase of his own home. Petro also warned his wife that in a few days, they would have a corporate party. Vika was happy to hear such good news and let him go to the party without any problems. She said she would wait for him at home and kiss him gently on the lips. When Petro came home from the corporate party, he immediately fell on the couch and fell asleep. His wife was already asleep. In the morning, he heard some sobbing through his sleep. "Vika, what's wrong? Did something happen?" Petro asked, not yet fully awake. "I found this in the pocket of your suit," his wife said through tears, pointing to the women's underwear lying on the floor. Petro looked at the evidence and instantly regained consciousness. "Come on, Vika. I swear to you on anything that I have never thought of anything like that." "I don't believe you," Vika said, wiping her teary eyes with a handkerchief. Petro was looking for an explanation for what had happened, realizing that any arguments he made that were not supported by convincing facts would only reinforce his wife's suspicions. He replayed the events of the previous night over and in his head, finding nothing suspicious. Yes. He had had too much to drink. It happens to everyone. The guy was dancing with his colleagues. That's what happened. In the middle of the evening, the young man took his jacket his shoulders and hung it on the back of a chair. At the end of the evening, he put the jacket back on. Immediately after the corporate party, Petro called a taxi. He went up to the 5th floor without any help. He had no idea who had put something in his pocket when and at what point. Despite her gentle nature, Vika also had a woman's pride. And Petro knew that he could regain his wife's trust only if he provided strong arguments that would completely debunk this evidence. The case was so delicate that the young man decided not to let any of his work colleagues in on it, even those he considered friends. The corporate party was held in one of the city's cafes. First of all, Petro went to see the owner of the place. He easily got into her office. A middle-aged woman was sitting in front of him. "Young man," she answered his quest, "even if we have video cameras in this room, I'm not going to give the footage to anyone." So there are cameras after all, Petra thought. Now we just need to get the recordings from them. The head of security, whom the young man approached, turned out to be much more cooperative than the owner. He immediately asked without ceremony, "How much?" It was not a case of bargaining, and Petro announced an amount equal to his monthly salary. "Okay," he agreed. But when Petro took out the flash drive, the security chief suddenly changed his mind. "That's no good," he said. "If you want to watch the recording, be my guest. But I'm not going to download anything. What if you put it on the internet? I don't want to lose my job." "Okay." Petro said. "I agree to watch the video. I'm waiting for you here today at 7 p.m. The bosses won't be here at that time." The man said. "Okay. I'll be on time," Petro said. At the appointed time, they sat down in front of the monitor. Petro asked to rewind the recording to the moment when he hung his jacket on the back of the chair, which significantly reduced the viewing time. Finally, the episode the young man had been waiting for came on the screen. What he saw on the monitor surprised him. At the end of the evening, when most of the partygoers were already quite drunk and Petro had gone to the bathroom for a few minutes, his friend and work colleague, Mikhail, came to the table, which was empty at the time. Looking around suspiciously, he clumsily transferred a trinket from his pocket to the jacket pocket on the back of the chair with an awkward movement of his hand. It was only at a second glance that I realized what the trinket. "Wow, man. Who set you up like that?" the head of security asked with interest. "It's my best friend. I didn't expect this from him," Pietro answered sadly. The young man recalled that when he first stuck dating Vika, Mikhail was also interested in the girl. But at the time, Petro didn't attach any importance to it, thinking it was a common thing. But now he had a completely different attitude towards Mikhail's sudden interest. He told the head of security, who listened attentively, "There's another reason for his dislike of me," Petro added, "because he and I came to this job together after graduation. Shortly before the corporate party, I was transferred to the office as an engineer while he remained in his previous position. I noticed his dissatisfaction even then, but I did not expect such meanness from Mikhail." During the conversation, the men were extracted by the monitor screen where the video recording of that evening continued. Suddenly, Petro saw Mikhail sit down at the table holding a beautiful bouquet of flowers. The young man wondered who the chosen one of this scandal was because at work, he was always saying that he had not found love. When a beautiful woman approached Mikhail, he gave her the flowers and kissed her passionately on the lips. Then Petro watched the video in a state of shock. He could not even imagine such a turn of events. Later, the young man asked the head of security for the recording of that evening, promising not to post it on the internet. Upset, Petro walked slowly home, thinking about what to do next. Shocked by what he saw, he remembered his ex-girlfriend's betrayal. Back then, the young man thought it was the worst period of his life. But now he was only interested in one thought: are all women so treacherous? Or is he the only one who is so unlucky in his personal life? When Petro came home, Vika wouldn't talk to him, offended by her husband's unpleasant discovery. And the guy holding a flash drive with a video in his hand could hardly restrain himself from showing his wife the video right then and there. The young man, tired of these events, went to his room to sleep, also without saying a word to Vika. The next day, when Petro saw Mikhail at work, he had to say hello to the scoundrel so as not to ruin all his plans for the traitors ahead of time. The young man was not even surprised when his friend asked him if everything was okay at home. Now he knew why Mikhail was interested in his family affairs. Petro replied that everything was fine and invited him to a cafe in the evening to have a good time. Other colleagues, hearing the young man's suggestion, decided to go along. Everything was going as Petro had planned, with only one small thing left to do. When Mikhail left the office to get coffee, he left his phone on his desk and Petro took advantage of it. The guy quickly sent a message to a number he knew well, and then deleted it from his friend's phone so that he wouldn't know about it. After work, the cheerful group gathered in a cafe again. The evening passed in a relaxed atmosphere, with only Petro looking at his watch. A few minutes after the expected time, the young man saw his beloved wife enter the cafe. Vika looked gorgeous in a new short dress with a fashionable hairstyle. It was obvious that she had carefully prepared for the meeting. Now the young woman was looking for someone, and when she spotted Mikhail at the bar, she approached him with a smile. Petro asked his colleagues to pay attention to what was about to happen. The intrigued men watched as Petro's wife gently leaned against Mikhail, and when he turned around, kissed him passionately. He hesitated, knowing full well that Vika's husband was watching. And indeed, before he could warn his mistress, Petro approached them. He took the shocked couple by the hands and led them to his colleagues. "It's so good that we're all here. I just got a cool video from our corporate party," the young man said, and pulled out a laptop from his bag. Then everyone saw Mikhail throw women's underwear into Petro's jacket, but the people around them were even more surprised and angry when they saw that Vika had come to the cafe to see her lover, where they had spent a lot of time dancing and kissing. Petro looked at his wife. "Is this how a beloved wife behaves? You waited until I fell asleep and quickly went to your lover. Have you always done this?" Vika was sitting there all red with shame and didn't even try to say anything. Petro turned to Mikhail. "And you were so worried about my happy family life that you decided to do such a despicable thing. I know very well that you have long been jealous of my position. But what you did was not at all manly. The only thing you can do now is to quit your job." All of Petro's colleagues supported him because no one wanted to work with such a scoundrel anymore. The shamed lovers quickly left and Petro went home. 2 weeks passed. The young man devoted himself to his work to make it easier to survive his wife's betrayal. He had recently learned that Mikhail had left Vika because he didn't need her. All the time, the scoundrel had been using her only to harm Petro in some way. The girl herself ended up in a psychiatric hospital. She became depressed and tried to commit suicide. Now Vika will be under medical supervision for a long time. And Petro still hasn't lost hope that he will meet his only beloved, who will not betray him under any circumstances. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our